Wait, hold up. My name is Feng Ming. I grew up in Oakland, California. I went to UCLA for college. I moved to the Midwest, specifically Kansas City, Missouri, for medical school. I actually took a few gap years, three specifically. During that time, I completed a postdoc program. I just took about 6 months to study for the
For
MCAT.
any students who are maybe like on the fence, what advice would you have for those type of students in terms of whether medicine is the right career for them?
You should look into yourself and see what your values are and what kind of life you want 20 years from now, because coming into this profession is going to be a long way. Your hard work will pay off.
Okay. Yo, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Sippin Soju, episode 10. We have a very special guest, my really good friend, Feng Ming Li.
Hello, thanks for having me, Max. You actually caught me at a very good time when you messaged and reached out to me. I was entering midterm, actually no, sorry, finals. Wait, hold up. I was actually entering, like, I have an exam next week, so I will have been like super busy next week preparing for it, but perfect timing.
Yeah, no, thanks for taking the time. Obviously, you are in a new state and you have something new going on right now, so I'm really excited to dive more into that. But yeah, no, really excited to have you on here. Obviously, well, for those who don't know, Guan Li is your brother, and we really got to make this episode, pop off more than Guan. So
Definitely, yeah, gotta get more views than him.
oh, it will. We'll make it happen. But yeah, just before we dive into it, curious to learn a little bit more about you. Can we jump into your background, where you're from, where you grew up, and then where you went to college?
Yeah, Max, like the last time I talked to you in person was back in May, so definitely a lot have changed since then, like more than I expected. But yeah, I'll start with a quick introduction. My name is Feng Ming. I grew up in Oakland, California, which is part of the Bay Area in Northern California, for those of you who aren't familiar with the region. I'm about 30 minutes away from San Francisco, so like I'm surrounded by a lot of like good foods, and I'll talk more about the Midwest food from my experience so far. But I have been super spoiled with a lot of like cultural food, like Asian food too. And then I went to UCLA for college, spent 4 years in Los Angeles, loved my time there. Um, Definitely miss California, but have always been a California girl, and it's my first time in the Midwest, and definitely very different. Still getting used to it, but I think it's growing on me slowly.
That's very interesting to hear because when I first moved from Alabama over to Wisconsin, going to the Midwest, just like hearing the Midwest is sometimes kind of scary. It's
Yeah,
like, well, what goes
no.
on there?
Yeah, I feel like I don't hear a lot about the Midwest because when you're on like the West Coast or the East Coast, all you hear about is the coasters. You don't really hear a lot about like what's going on in the Midwest. So there's like, yeah, I didn't know what to expect.
Well, I'm really happy that you're moving to the Midwest, obviously for a very special occasion. Do you want to maybe announce that right now?
Oh yeah, for sure. I totally forgot about why I'm here. So, I moved to the Midwest, specifically Kansas City, Missouri, for medical school. It has been a dream of mine since I think high school. I considered it during like middle school and elementary school because like growing up in an Asian household, that's what you hear about. Like, oh yeah, you should grow to become a doctor. You should become a lawyer. So
For sure.
like growing up with like kind of like a very traditional Asian household, that's why my parents kind of like talked about, but they didn't really like specifically push me and my brother. He's also in medical school to get into the medical field. So it's finally nice to kind of like move forward towards that direction and kind of like start like making my dream into reality.
I'm super excited and happy for you. I know you posted on Instagram, but I wanted to formally congratulate you, over the webcam at least, because I know that's been a dream of yours, and Guan told me that as well. So really happy for you and excited for you.
No, yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's kind of crazy because I think when I went to you, Calvin, Hardy, and Guan's graduation back in May, I was still stressing about like working on an application and possibly reapplying. And then it's just like so crazy that in the span of like a month, like everything changed. So yeah, very excited and super, super like nervous too to start on this journey.
Yeah, I guess like timeline wise, could you give everyone watching kind of a breakdown as to after you graduated, what you did, and then like the timeline between how you got from graduating college over to med school now?
Yeah, so another thing about my journey compared to, I guess, Guan is that I actually took a few gap years, three specifically. After I graduated from UCLA in 2019, I went back home to Bay Area to save money because it's so expensive to live in California. And during that time, I completed a postdoc program, which I finished in December of 2020. So like it was when like COVID hit and everything transitioned from in person to virtual. So like it was definitely a very stressful time for a lot of students. And I'm pretty sure you can relate to Max because your whole senior year was like canceled. Like all the fun stuff you planned out for senior was like postponed. And I'm pretty sure you can talk more about later on. But yeah, so I finished my postdoc in December of 2020 and I worked as a medical assistant for a dermatology clinic back in Berkeley, California. And that's where my interest in dermatology started, kind of.
And how did you find out about this, about like working for this dermatologist? Like, did this opportunity just come up through digging, or is this something that, I guess, like, yeah, could you break down the process for us?
Yeah, for sure. I think because it was COVID, it was a little bit more difficult finding like jobs. And I think also because like everyone graduated too, they also want like some in-person experience before they apply to medical school. So it was pretty competitive. I went on Google and obviously search of like, oh, medical assistant clinics near me. Or and I also use like Indeed.com for those of you who are not aware, it's like a job searching website, and also use ZipRecruiter. So those are the two that I primarily use to look for like jobs around the area. But in the beginning, I was more like broadly in my search, but then I know like I want to do dermatology because like, growing up, I deal with a lot of like skin problems, specifically acne, and that kind of affected the way I view like the skin. And I know for a lot of people also affected like their like mental health and also is prevented people from like going to class or just like meeting up with friends. So I think just going through those experiences and like similar experiences with like as someone who went through like skin problems, I want to like do something about that in the future. So that's what got me interested in dermatology. And like after working that clinic, it kind of confirmed my interest. I really liked the patient population and the work-life balance.
That's really cool. No, thanks for sharing. And also thanks for being vulnerable there about sharing what got you into dermatology to begin with. I
Mm-hmm.
I can totally agree, just like coming from middle school and early high school, like having bad acne and just going over all the hormonal changes that mostly everyone goes through this, I feel like, unless you're super, super fortunate and not having any of those problems. But yeah, like it definitely affected my personal like self-confidence and just like how I viewed my image. But since overcoming some of those challenges, I've definitely realized that at the end of the day, I feel like you are your harshest critic in terms of your appearance, and people, they actually don't really care that much about how you look. And it's also like at the end of the day, as long as you're proud of yourself and you love yourself, I think that's like the number one step, you know?
No, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And no, you're definitely your own biggest critics. And especially when you're on the pre-medical path, when you're comparing yourself to so many other people who are probably like smarter and even have like better stats than you, it's so hard not to like fall into rabbit hole like thinking, am I good enough? And yeah, definitely you should be your own biggest cheerleader at the end of the day.
Sorry if you heard a motorcycle zipping by.
Uh,
That
It's all
was
good.
I live on a four-way intersection, so it's pretty inconvenient sometimes.
Not to hear
Um,
anything, it's fine.
Perfect. But going back to your role as like working in a dermatology clinic, from that time period, did you spend did you spend all of your time post grad working there, or did you do any other opportunities? I know you said you also did post back as well.
Mhm.
Was that like in combination with working for like full time or part time, or is that like a separate time period?
Oh yeah, good question. I should clarify a little bit more about my timeline. So, I started my postdoc program immediately after I graduated, which was back in August 2019. And then during that time, I also did a part-time medical assistant position too, but it was at a spine clinic. And I terminated that position January of 2020. And because I want to focus purely just on my classes. And then the pandemic hit. And then so during that time, I didn't really feel comfortable looking for a new like job, especially when I'm dealing with patients and if I have to leave the house because I live with my parents and I
For
didn't want
sure.
to like risk like, getting them infected or anything. So from January 2020 to December 2020, I just like focused on classes, finished my program. But during that time, I also did other projects such as like research in the Bay Area and also a mental health project that I worked on during that time. And then after I finished my postdoc program, I just took about 6 months to study for the MCAT. So
Okay.
after the MCAT, and then I started that dermatology position. And then I
Gotcha.
started, yeah, and that was like from October to May or June. Wait, until I came here to Midwest. So it's about
That's
8 months.
That's kind of insane, the time commitment and also just like the overall commitment in general to wanting to pursue medicine because you graduated in 2019, is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And the fact that you spent the last 3 years really crafting your application in preparation towards where you are now, it must be super like awesome. I'm not sure if you've had the time to reflect on that at all, but that's super awesome and I'm proud of you for that.
No, yeah, thank you so much. I definitely reflected a lot during my post-bac years and during the pandemic because I was just home all the time. I had nothing else to do, and I was just alone since everyone was also in quarantine. And no, I definitely had a lot of doubts throughout my journey, and especially as a non-traditional student, there were a lot of challenges that I also had to like overcome to get here. It wasn't really like since I'm as a non-traditional student, I think a lot of the stuff I was doing wasn't really um I guess like it's like new for my parents. They didn't understand why I was like doing a post-bac program. They didn't understand why I took extra gap years to apply to
Right.
medical school. So I had to do a lot of those like circumstances and I had to keep explaining to them why I'm doing this, even when they kind of didn't really like understood me. So yeah, definitely wasn't easy to get to where I am.
For sure. And I'm really happy that, obviously the end result was for you to go to medical school to pursue your passion and here you are. But I guess like retrospectively looking back, for any students who are maybe like on the fence of applying to medical school, who've maybe gone through all of the undergraduate courses, but maybe got cold feet, as they say, maybe their senior year of college, what advice would you have for those type of students in terms of whether medicine is the right career for them based off of, your experience and driving so much during the past 3 years to get to where you are?
Yeah. So, throughout my whole journey, I have friends who entered as pre-meds and eventually they realized that medicine isn't for them. They decided to pursue other like professional um, healthcare fields such as PAs or nursing. And ultimately, that's up for you to decide because at the end of the day, you should look into yourself and see what your values are and what you prioritize and what kind of life you want 20 years from now because coming into this profession is going to be a long way and if you really want it you will make it, but I guess my biggest advice for students who are about to graduate and are interested in the medical field but is not still on the fence is that do what makes you happy. um I'm saying that because like as a future healthcare provider, you come across like difficult patients, people who might want to make you quit and might make you want to like question like, oh yeah, why am I in medicine? But I think looking at the bigger picture, if like despite all those like little setbacks or I guess like negative encounters, if you think you'll be happy, serving others in the future, then I think you can choose the right profession.
I completely agree. I definitely think in our society it's really stressful because we have a lot of factors that are not internal coming at us, giving us direction, whether that's, in school having professors that say you should pursue X, Y, or Z career because, it's the most stable, or having parents that maybe want you to pursue a career because they did it or maybe they never got the chance to. And then even for yourself, identifying what you're interested in, like at our ages, in our 20s, I feel like it's still like there's so much opportunity, and having to really commit to one field already, it can be very scary. So I think it's so cool how you knew what you wanted to pursue, and now you're finally getting to, near the end stages of actually getting, to do what you put your mindset to.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think the magic of like having a few gap years is that you actually get to do some stuff that you have been putting off during undergrad because we've been so busy with just the grind, finish our
Yeah,
classes and like studying for the exam. So also the fact that I also had more time to like explore working in the healthcare field as a medical assistant and not one but two positions definitely consolidated my passion for medicine.
okay.
I think, yeah, definitely if you go into medical school straight out of undergrad, you have to have a really strong resolve to get into medical field. But if for those of you who are like still like on the fence, I think you should like try working in the healthcare field first and then see if you actually like working with patients. Because ultimately you'll be doing that every single day for the rest of your life.
I really like that advice you gave there. I think definitely trying to do either, whether it's an internship or whether it's on the side part time or even full time right after college or during college, just like having the opportunity to dabble into that atmosphere. I feel like that's super valuable because sometimes on the outside it appears one way, on the inside when you're actually in the daily toil, it's a lot different,
Yeah, yeah. And then also I feel like since I had more gap years, I was able to like do some stuff with my friends that I haven't done in a while, like try out new hobbies. So that was also really fun because I know that now I'm entering medical school. I probably won't have that much time to do like all the other fun stuff that I have been doing during the pandemic.
That's really cool. I Going
Yeah.
back to what you said about the gap year,
Mm-hmm.
for any, I guess for any undergraduates who are considering about applying to medical school and who have the opportunity to go straight through, how would you, if you could summarize your experience with your gap year in like in a couple of points, what you think is most beneficial having a gap year rather than going straight through to medical school?
Yeah. So one of the biggest thing I liked about having gap year was that I had more time to try out new things and work and get more experiences before I apply for medical school. Um, when I was an undergrad, I was so like busy with different extracurricular activities that I didn't really have that many experiences that would make me a competitive applicant. So building up your resume was a really big factor for me. And if GPA was something that was a struggle or challenge for you, having extra gap years and doing a post-bac program can bring up your GPA. Another thing is that you have more time to work on like your application. You have more time to study for an MCAT. So that was also something that I really liked about having the extra gap years.
I think what you mentioned about not only helping your application for applying to medical school, but also taking time for your personal life and really getting to explore yourself more. I think that's invaluable compared to the time that you've invested. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I think that yeah, during my gap years, I definitely grew personally and like interpersonally too, and like on a professional level. So definitely really nice.
Before we dive a little bit more into how Missouri is and how Kansas City is, I'm curious, like, what did you have any expectations as to what a medical assistant role would be like versus how, like, what you actually experienced? I'm curious if there are any, you could explain there.
Yeah, actually, I came in with the expectation that my physician will do majority of the work, but in reality, the medical assistants are the ones doing majority of the work.
Oh,
For
wow.
example, yeah, so basically, as a medical assistant, I would room the patient, prepare them for any procedures, and then the physician will come in and talk to them for like about 5 to 15 minutes or like the allocated time that you have. And then I would normally be the one closing the meeting too, as in like asking them if they have any questions, making sure we got the correct pharmacy to send them the medications, giving them like after visit notes. And if they want me to like print out everything that we discussed during the appointment, then I have to do everything on the spot. So no, definitely really different than what I expected that I'll be doing, but it's been pretty enjoyable.
That's really interesting that you still had that experience out of what your expectation was, because it sounds like you thought the physician would be doing a majority of the legwork, but in actuality, the medical assistant obviously does a lot of the documentation, a lot of hands-on work as well. But that experience itself was something that you found to be enjoyable. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a lot of work and it was like pretty tiring, especially in the beginning when I was learning everything and learning Epic, the electronic medical record that a lot of the healthcare systems use in the United States. And I'm pretty sure you're gonna talk more about it since you worked at Epic. But yeah, it was kind of exhausting, not gonna lie. And it was a very, very fast-paced environment. But I'm the type of person who enjoys working in a fast-paced environment. And I think that's another thing why I'm interested in healthcare because you're always learning about something new. I am a pretty social person, so I do like the like patient interactions that I have in the rooms with them. So I think just everything about working as a physician fits into like my lifestyle and my personality.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's really cool that you shared that. I feel like two phrases that I've heard a lot about any healthcare professional when you start working in that environment is controlled chaos and drinking from a fire hose. Would you say those are pretty accurate from starting out your role as an MA?
No, yes. I think the first 3 weeks I went into like my new clinic, I feel like everything was on fire. I feel like I didn't know anything. Feel like I was messing up. And I feel I made so many mistakes, but you learn how to control the fire eventually.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of your hours, were they structured or how does that work? Because I have no idea.
Yeah, so for both of my previous medical assistant positions, I worked in a both private clinics. So the first one, it was non-structured and our office hours were from 9 to 5:45.
Okay.
But if you didn't finish all your notes, you had to stay after. So for the first like few months or so, I had to stay until like 7, 8 sometimes to finish my notes. But my second position, it was structured. It was from 8:45 to 5:45, and we all leave at 5:45. So I love that a lot more.
So key advice to anyone who's considering an MA role, definitely try to get as much structure in place as possible because I mean, I'm sure you'll elaborate on this, but my understanding is you're probably seeing so many patients during the day that you can't physically get your notes done. So eventually you just need to take your own time to get it done in terms of like non-structured practices, right?
No, yeah. Um, Obviously, as a medical assistant, you also have a lot of responsibilities, and your patient's health is also your number one priority. If you don't finish their notes, then they don't get the medications, they don't get their treatment options, because for a lot of the patients that we worked with, we have to go through the insurances to get their treatments authorized. So if you don't finish our part, then they probably have to wait longer for their like treatments, and that also could affect like their quality of health too.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good call out there. There's definitely a lot of steps that need to go in order. And I guess you personally feel that responsibility if you're holding up one of those steps. So makes sense.
Hmm.
In terms of training for being an MA, I'm curious if you could elaborate on like how long that was. I know
Hmm.
learning the EHR system was definitely a part of that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So thankfully, I did not have to attend the medical assistance school to get a certificate. I know a lot of positions, they want you to have the certificate for hiring you, but I didn't want to waste my time and money to do one of the programs. But a lot of my coworkers did, and they find it beneficial. So that's also another route. If you do want to become a medical assistant, you can look for different programs around you. And then I don't know how long the program is, but depending on the program, they have different hour requirements. So yeah, you can look into that, or you get trained on a job, which is what I did. It was definitely a lot harder because I did not have prior knowledge to like the Epic system that we use. So that was kind of hard, but I think it took about 3 weeks for me to get used to everything
Three
and
weeks.
caught up.
Okay. I
Yeah.
would think you're a pretty fast learner then because EHR is very difficult to learn.
No, yeah, no, it was really hard, but because you're working with so many patients and it's such a fast-paced environment, you kind of can't like lag. And 3 weeks is actually a lot of time because like
The number of
I was
patients you see
thrown,
per day, right?
yeah, yeah. So you just like get used to it. Even if you don't know anything for first few weeks, you should like take some notes and then review it when you get back home. That's what I did.
You're just sprinkling in so much good advice. Hey, everyone comment W in the chat for all the free helpful advice for all those interested in medicine. That's really cool, and thanks for sharing all those details. I myself have learned a lot just because these experiences that you had, I feel like are so unique and have really probably helped. I feel like they all are beneficial in helping you become a better healthcare professional. So that's really cool that it's like you're investing in yourself through doing these experiences.
Yeah, I feel like I just like briefly brushed over everything that I talked about, but I can also talk more about different parts of my journey. Or if anyone's interested in learning more, you can like hit me up. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll link all your social media handles. If you have any, YouTube videos or if you have any, you rap at all, like we can throw all that in the description.
Yeah, sounds good.
Perfect. So going from working as an MA and then also like having to go through the toil of studying for MCAT, I know those 6 months were not fun by
No,
nature.
yeah, it was
Um,
not fun.
how did you have like what motivated you to just like sit down and do it aside from the fact that you knew that this was a milestone? Like how did you motivate yourself? Because oftentimes I feel like these large standardized exams can be really daunting.
Yeah, that was a very hard and dark time for me. I'm pretty sure for anyone who went through the MCAT can also agree and relate to my experiences. But I guess one thing that I have to give credit to was also something that I didn't like was COVID. Because COVID was happening, there were like a lot less distractions, and I was less inclined to get distracted by what my friends were doing because everyone else was also home. So yeah, I spent a lot of my time in my room just studying, but a lot of the like drive that I found was within myself and why I'm on this journey. I think after I graduated from college and embarked on my post-bac journey, I told myself that I am gonna do it no matter what because I know that it's gonna be a longer path than the normal traditional students since they went straight in. But I made a commitment to myself after I graduate that I am gonna do whatever I can take like do to like get to medical school, and I just like believe in myself. But also I had a really big support system from my friends and my family too that I met from a postdoc program and also from my college and my high school. So a lot of support system.
That's so cool to hear that you like obviously just from the beginning of the podcast talking with you about what really drives you to becoming a medical professional and like you clearly said that it was just like something that you were passionate about and wanted to do. I feel like that's one of the most important factors to have when you pursue the career of becoming a physician because it's so long. And that's also really awesome that from your post-bac and from your different experiences and also from your family that they were all there to help you along that journey.
No, yeah, no, there were definitely a lot of times when I feel like I was gonna give up. Like, especially when you're in this super long journey, sometimes you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Even towards the end, when you're applying, when you're doing interviews, when you're like getting some sort of like acknowledgement that you're on the right track, sometimes you still don't know if you're actually doing like what you're supposed to be doing. So a lot of just self-reflection and asking like why you're doing this and if that's ultimately what you want.
No, for sure. I'm curious if, given that you've successfully tackled this MCAT beast, I'm curious if you have any advice on resources that helped you along the way for studying, or if you wanted to shout out any resources or study materials that you used.
Yeah, I use UWorld. It's this test bank with a lot of questions that's similar to the like AMC materials. It's a little bit harder, according to a lot of students, and I think according to myself too, but definitely prepares you pretty well for the exam. I also use Khan Academy for a lot of the videos and for their card section. Um, Geez, I use a lot of resources. I also use Anki. Shout out to Miles Down and another deck I used was Cuban for the psych and sociology section. And then I use Jack Sparrow for the beginning part or like the content phase of my studying. And then also Kaplan. I use Kaplan to do all my content materials and then Blueprint for the process questions.
That's
So a bit of
so,
everything.
everyone who's watching, like we're just throwing free dimes at you. So make sure you follow Feng Ming on Instagram and blow up her follower account and thank her. I'm wondering, would you be able to actually send me all the resources or links to those, and I can just throw them in the description or comment section? That'll be super helpful.
Yeah. I'll send you everything later. And also Reddit is like
Reddit,
really
yeah.
useful for information.
You are the resource goat, Feng Ming.
Thank
Thank you so
you.
much. Okay, we back.
Hey.
So you're currently living in Kansas City, Missouri right now, right?
Yes, Midwest.
So that process of, first of all, getting your acceptance letter to medical school and then moving like halfway across the US, that must have been like a stressful just like bunch of events to deal with, right?
Yeah, no, it was really stressful. I think to a point where I kind of got sick throughout the process because I was under so much stress. But basically, I had to move everything over in about 3 weeks. Um, I had to ship my car over because I didn't have time, but super stressful and but I'm happy to be here.
3 weeks, that's crazy. So that's like from when you first got the acceptance letter, is that correct?
Yeah, I think I also mentioned it in the beginning when like I was at Yale. I was still working on my application because I thought I had to reapply. And then actually the week that I was gonna submit my apps again, that's when I heard back from both of the like two programs. And I had to not only move everything over to another state, but I had to make a big decision where I had to choose between two different schools. And both of the deadlines were about the same time too. So I had to like there were a lot to think about, two complete different states and two different programs. And here I am.
That's insane. Congratulations on getting accepted to two programs and having the opportunities to select. I'm sure that made it even more stressful for you, but that's a good stress to have, you know?
Yeah, it was a very unexpected but very good stress.
So given the timelines, I guess like for those two programs, were you waitlisted initially and then they let you know
Yeah.
later on?
Yeah. So I was waitlisted and then right when I was gonna lose hope, I got in from the waitlist. So
Can you mention what the other program was?
well it's in New Mexico.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think that narrows down the options there, right?
Yeah, I really loved the program in New Mexico, but there were different things about this program here that I ultimately fell in love with, and I picked this one over the other one. But it was a very hard decision for sure.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. Also, like both environments are completely different, and they're both like pretty far away from where you live in around the Bay Area. So that must have been a lot.
Yeah, it was either like a few hours away from California, I think. Well, no, I think that New Mexico is also, well, if you take the plane, it would be an hour something, I believe.
Okay.
But it was like 3 hours for me to get here.
Whereas for flying to Kansas City, that's
Oh
like,
no, yeah, yeah. Flying to Kansas City was about 3 hours and 30 minutes, I think. And then but driving here would be like 26 hours.
you didn't want to go on a road trip?
No, I actually wanted to like a bunch of my friends who actually my classmates, they drove from California and it took them about 3 to 4 days. But given the amount of time that I had compared to them, I just didn't think it was possible to like drive everything here and then start school in 3 weeks. So it was just like a little bit more like of a like rush for me.
That's yeah, that's kind of crazy that you had to move halfway across the US in 3.5 weeks. Um,
Yeah.
and overall, I guess like I'm curious if you'd like to share how did that conversation go with your parents with you sharing that, oh, like you finally got to do what you dreamed of, you know?
No, yeah, they were really like surprised and but they were also really happy for me because I know that they're seeing me like working towards this like goal for since like I graduated from college and they see me studying for an MCAT, studying for my postdoc program. So I think they are happy that I finally am going to medical school because it's been 3 years since I graduated. And I think that since Guan, my brother who went straight into medical school, they will get a little bit worried about me. They were starting to like worry about, oh yeah, I'm actually gonna get in if I start even like next year. When am I gonna finish? So they also had like a lot of questions for me, and I'm glad that like me starting medical school this year was able to answer a bunch of questions they probably were like pretty concerned about. Yeah, I guess the biggest advice would be like don't give up even though, like I said, you might not able to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I think your efforts will definitely pay off in the end.
For sure. You also mentioned that you have you know some classmates prior to medical school. Is that correct? Who are going with you?
So only one, he was actually also in my postdoc program,
Oh,
and
cool.
yeah, it's pretty nice to have someone in the Midwest, especially since you've never been there before. So it's been a pretty good like support system.
How is life in Kansas City, Missouri? I'm very curious to hear your take on like the food, the culture, the population, just like everything.
Oh my gosh, yeah, let me tell you, when I first got out of the airport, I was not expecting the humidity.
Humidity.
I I like I think the week that I landed was really, really hot. I think it was around like 100 something throughout the week. So coming from the Bay Area to the Midwest and that temperature was like really unexpected. I stepped out of the airport and I was sweating just standing there. And like I think it was like 70s back in the Bay Area when I left and I had to go from like 70 to 100 like real quick.
70 to 100 and then like from 5% humidity to like 95%.
Yeah, it was like crazy and I'm still getting used to it. And like definitely the weather was something that like I would get used to. Like it started raining earlier this week. I don't know if it was raining for you in Wisconsin, but it was raining for us like the first 3 days of this week.
I think I think it rained overnight, but during the daytime
Oh,
I haven't personally seen it, but like I see dew on the grass in the morning, you know.
no, yeah, it's really rare to rain in the summer in California. So I saw a weather forecast and it said that it's gonna rain 100%, I was like, okay, there's no way it's gonna rain for more than 5 minutes. So I didn't bring an umbrella, and I had to walk through the rain to my class. So I was like drenched in like rain, and I had to dry myself off in the
That's
bathroom before
hilarious.
entering.
That's
Yeah, that's the
hilarious.
first day of class. I was like drenched in rain.
And they're like, oh, she's definitely from California, from like the
Yeah.
West Coast.
No, yeah, I was wearing my like sandals too.
That's actually really interesting that you mentioned like the different weather change because that's actually a huge deal. Like when it's that humid at night, if you don't have like AC or like a decent fan, it's kind of hard to sleep when it's that humid, you know?
Yeah, I have like AC on like every single day since coming here, and we don't really use AC in the Bay Area, so it's like really weird. But the good thing about moving here is the gas prices. I don't know if you hear about gases, like gas prices in California, but when I left, I think it was around like 6.99-ish, like around six something. But yeah, I just got gas like this week it was like 3.89, so I guess that's a good thing.
You're like light work.
Yeah, all my California friends are so jealous of me. They're like, what the heck?
I know that's kind of crazy you mentioned that because I was just in Chicago for a couple of days, the last couple of weeks, and I'm pretty sure the gas prices, if are very similar to that of California. It's like in the
Oh
sixes.
wow.
Yeah, it's like
Oh wow.
ridiculous. And then in Madison, um, at its peak, it was like 470 or 490, and now
Oh
it's
wow.
back down to like 360. So like and that's still high compared to when I first moved here. At certain points, you could get gas like 199. So like,
What?
yeah, it's kind of wild, isn't it?
Never in my life, like in California, were gas prices that cheap. I think the lowest for me was like two something back in like elementary school, but that was like 15 years ago.
I know inflation is killing people out here, right?
Yeah, I think the fact that like we're in it, I didn't realize how bad inflation is. Cause like some of my friends who were like studying abroad in Korea, they're like, yo, how's the inflation? I was like, I'm not sure. But definitely I should like read the news more. I think they are talking a lot about the inflation right now, but I'm just like kind of not really looking to news.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like it's definitely avoidable, especially when you're always grinding in school and you're focused on other things. I feel like for me, the parts that I notice the most are number one, obviously gas, because like you pay for gas all the time, and then also like whether it's rent for apartments or like potentially mortgages if you have a home, and then also for food. Like I was I was almost in tears because I used to eat a lot of eggs, right? Because
Oh,
eggs are good,
it's so good.
so I go to a grocery store called Aldi. For those who don't know, it's like really affordable produce. A lot of it's like fresh produce. They used to sell eggs, I kid you not, for like 30 cents for a 12 pack in a
Wait, are you
container.
serious?
Yeah, I'm not even kidding. Like when I first moved to Wisconsin a couple of years ago, they had eggs in 12 packs for like 30 cents.
That's
And then
crazy.
with at the peak of like the pandemic slash when eggs were apparently in a shortage because chickens were like not producing, um, it was like it was like upper $3 for a 12 pack of eggs that were
Oh
not
my God.
organic, not pasture raised. We're talking like the basic egg you could possibly get. I was like, this is terrible. Like, what am I gonna eat now? Because I eat eggs every day. So I actually didn't eat eggs
Yeah,
for like a couple of months to really
to
budget
save
against
money.
that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, I'm sorry about that. I hope that you are able to buy some more eggs now that, we're gonna be living COVID for probably a while. But wait, commenting on the food prices here, I didn't realize how expensive Asian food is in the Midwest. I don't know about Wisconsin, but in KC, Asian food is like almost like 1.5 times as like expensive as Asian food in like the Bay Area. Like for example, soju. A
Oh
bottle of
yeah.
soju, speaking of sipping soju, about a bottle of soju in KC is, I think my friend bought it. He said it was like $7, but you can buy like two sojus in the Bay Area for like seven.
What?
I know, it's crazy.
Wait, no, that's wild to me because I completely agree in the Midwest, due to a lack of available Asian restaurants and food, depending on where you're at, the price of Asian food is, I think it's like a little bit on the higher end. And a bottle of soju, I went to the grocery store the other day. I went to the liquor store the other day to look at potentially getting soju because, Sippin Soju podcast, I gotta have soju at some point. But with
Exactly.
inflation, man, one small bottle of like the of like green grape, that cost $9. And I'm just like,
No.
this is not sustainable. I cannot have this.
Yeah,
I cannot have this every episode. I'm
I
not getting
know.
monetized at all, you know?
Exactly. Maybe they should sponsor us so like, we can like actually afford soju.
I know, but yeah, I'm curious if you could break down an example of a dish that you had in SF and like what it's priced at compared to a dish that you've had, in KC and like what that price discrepancy is.
No, honestly, I actually haven't tried out that many like Asian restaurants here because we don't have that many like good ones. But I went to a sushi place about like 2 weeks ago and it wasn't that bad for all you can eat. I think
Okay.
the price was like pretty similar, but I do notice like when I purchase things from Costco, like the Asian food there is like more expensive. I think like a box of ramen was around like 15. Don't quote me on this, but it was like 15-ish maybe. Where I was
Like instant ramen.
it was like tonkatsu, like one of the more fancy
Oh,
ones.
okay, okay.
It was like I think 13 or 15, but I think if I were to buy from like Costco back in like the Bay Area, it would have been like maybe like 10, like 10 or 11. But it was just like a little bit more expensive. But that adds up.
It really does. And
Yeah.
also like at the end of the day, like I get it, tonkatsu ramen, that's definitely like a step up from like
The
your
Shin
normal ramen, and
ramen.
then Shin ramen's also somewhere here. But like, come on, man, like it's ramen. It's just noodles and soup base at the end of
Yeah,
the day, you know?
exactly. And you still have to put into the work of like making it. You have to add the sauce, you have to like,
It
add
doesn't include
water.
boiling water. You gotta heat the water yourself.
Exactly.
That's the electricity cost right there.
Electricity, human power, time, like everything.
No, for sure. That's I feel like that's like food and the culture in the Midwest is definitely a lot different. Obviously diversity is as well, depending on how rural or like how different your home location was. Um, but I completely agree. I feel like in my current location in Wisconsin, there's not much Asian food. There's quite a number of different sushi places for Japanese, but in terms of Chinese food, it's really difficult to find like traditional, authentic, and also like decently priced food.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a bunch of like sushi restaurant. There's one Korean barbecue place that me and some of my classmates are gonna try out tonight, actually.
Cool. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'll let you know if it's good. But yeah, I haven't seen or heard any like good Chinese food around here, like dim sum or just like any like fast food chains in general. It's really funny. One of my classmates he searched up like, oh, good Chinese food around here, and guess what popped up?
Uh, Panda Express.
No, it's like PF Chang, I think.
Oh, PF Chang's. It that's kind of like Panda Express. Except
Yeah,
it's like a more elevated one, but they also make like it's like Americanized Chinese food. Yeah.
yeah, but I was like, that's not even authentic Chinese food.
Yeah. That's
That's like so
hilarious.
funny. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong though, Americanized Chinese food, it really hits. It really hits. It's different, but it still hits.
No, yeah, no. Sometimes you just want that like Panda Express orange chicken,
Yeah,
you
no,
know.
for sure. Like I'm kind of craving that right now. I actually forgot to eat lunch, so I'm gonna do that. So talking
Oh,
about this is
nice.
actually giving me pain right now.
Oh my gosh. No, I ate right before this, so I'm like all good, but I'm ready to eat dinner soon too.
I'm excited for your Korean barbecue. That's gonna be a fun time, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm excited to finally try eat like good Korean food, hopefully, for the
If
first time like 3 weeks.
if the experience was good, could you send me a picture? I'll throw it on the actual on the actual
The
podcast.
thumbnail?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I might use it as a thumbnail. Actually, if you have, it would be really funny if you could send me a picture of like some really bad Chinese food, and then, or I can maybe get on Google Images and then throw it in the fun thumbnail, like moving to Kansas City, like Chinese food in Kansas City question mark.
Dude, I'm gonna get so much hate from like people who actually enjoy like KC Chinese food. Like they're gonna be like, boo.
Yeah, no. we we can table that and talk about that as we get to the editing stages.
You're right, you're right.
Um, so actually, yeah, thanks so much for taking the time, Feng Ming. I actually have just like a couple of questions left. They're more rapid fire, if that's cool with
Yeah,
you.
yeah, for sure. Go, go, go.
First question: what is your proudest accomplishment?
Proudest accomplishment. Not giving up and pursuing this non-traditional path towards medical school.
Awesome. Completely agree. I thought you were going to say that, but in case there's something different, wanted to hear it from you. On the flip side, what is your biggest regret, if you have any?
Geez, asking me all these hard questions. Biggest regret, I think, not spending more time with my parents. Well, during the pandemic, I spent a lot of time with my friends because I was stuck at home all the time. But now that I'm so far away from the Midwest, and since my parents are so busy, I don't think they will fly over here just to like, visit me. So my
Yeah,
only like, I guess like time that I'll get with them would be when I go back home for winter break or summer break if I do go home. So I think like looking like in the future, like entering the medical field, I'm gonna have like less time with them. Um, I'm gonna be so busy like with studying and like working towards my goal that I probably will only see them like once or twice a year if I'm lucky. So wish I spent more time with them when I'm home, but hopefully I get to spend time with them when I come back for break.
for sure. No, I think that's definitely one of those challenges, especially when you take a career such as like medicine. You have school, you have residency, and during that time period, as you said, you're absolutely jam packed. But I'm sure your parents do understand as well, and definitely now that you know that that's something that you want to work on, during your times when you are home, when you get breaks, you get to visit them or on vacation. Hopefully, it can be more of the quality rather than quantity of time.
Exactly, exactly.
What is your most embarrassing moment?
Like here or
Oh, just in general. It's the fun one I like to call out.
most embarrassing? Huh. I feel like that's hard.
Clearly, someone does not want to get exposed today. I'm just
Wait,
kidding.
do you have an embarrassing moment?
uh, I mentioned one actually. So on Sippin Soju podcast episode 9, which is coming out tomorrow, I exposed myself and talk about one embarrassing moment. So if you really want to get to that period, I'll leave a chapter and a timestamp so you can click on it. But
Oh yeah. Okay, I'll look forward to that. Let me see. For some reason, I can't think of anything on top of my head right now, but
and there's no need to force it. If there's not one that comes top of mind, you're like, not embarrassed at all. And that's also really like that's fine. That's perfect.
well, I can't think of, I'm pretty sure I had a lot of embarrassing moments, you know, throughout my life, but for some reason, my brain's like fried from this morning's lecture that I can't think of one. And then I also found out that we have Sunday class because our professor didn't finish half of the material. So gotta go to class on Sunday.
No, I completely understand. And sometimes whenever I have a really embarrassing moment, I feel like I just block it out. So I mentally cannot recall it. So yeah. Um, and then moving forward, talking about goals. So there are goals for a medical professional. There are goals that you have as well. What is your goal within the next year?
Hmm. Next year, so obviously, pass all my classes, but I also want to find time to, explore a little bit of the Midwest and to um, try out new things. Um, I guess like I'm pretty big on music and like I like going to festivals and stuff. And I thought I was gonna give that up, coming here, but I was pretty surprised at how big the music scene is in KC.
Okay.
Um, they actually have a bunch of like big names coming and performing in KC. So I like want to like, work hard and play hard and also try out new hobbies. I rock climb sometimes and hopefully I can continue that throughout medical school. Um, just work on my health in general too. I want to be more fit. I think that's like a lot of goals for like a lot of people. as a like New Year resolution.
For sure. No, and speaking of rock climbing, if you and Guan ever come up to, Wisconsin, there's like a couple of rock climbing gyms. I did it once for the first time. I'm a little too dense and a little too heavy to be doing it on the regular, so I've been, running and slimming down a bit, but it's really fun and I'd be totally down to do it with you guys.
No, yeah, that'll be fun. If you ever come to KC, there's also a couple of
KC.
gyms here.
If I ever come to KC, we'll grab Korean barbecue at that one Korean barbecue spot.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
And then I know this is looking way far ahead, but what about 10 years?
10 years. Okay, so if everything goes as planned, then 10 years from now, I will be done with medical school. I'll be done with residency. I'll be done with my specialty training. Um, I do want to like start a family, in the future. 10 years from now, I'll be 30 something. So I feel like by that time, hopefully I'll be like settled down. I'll be out working as a physician. I do want to go back to California to practice. I love California. I love the weather, culture, people, and my family and most of my friends are there too. So going back to California would be like end goal. And to practice in California too. I am pretty passionate about skincare. Ultimately, I want to like create my own skincare line, and I'm not sure about private practice yet, but I might look into that. But I definitely want to look into like maybe opening up my own skincare line.
That would be so cool. That's actually really dope. I personally started using Laneige. Have you heard
I
of
love
that?
Laneige. Yes,
Sometimes when I'm really trying to treat myself, I use a bit of the water sleeping mask.
that was so good. Chef kiss. I love that. Like I feel like after you wake up, your skin feels like baby skin.
Yeah, no. my skin my skin feels like the softest silk in the world, and then after I get outside in the Midwest humidity, I'm like, oh,
That ruins everything.
yeah.
You
But
gotta try their lip sleeping mask though. That one's really good too.
oh yeah, no, my girlfriend actually, I've tried many different flavors. Tried the grape, the peppermint, yeah, like the whole 9 yards. It's phenomenal.
Okay,
You
yes,
guys should get it. We're not sponsored by Laneige, but Laneige, if you want to
they
help your boy
should.
out, send some products over.
Exactly. Send some products to a broke med student too.
Yeah, send some product. I'll leave our PO boxes down below.
I'll link my mailing address.
Perfect. Well, yeah, thanks so much for taking the time, Feng Ming. I really appreciate your insight. And really, the last request is to anyone who's stuck around this long to listen to your journey and who's also trying to, learn more about themselves. Do you have any last advice or any last quotes that you want to give out?
Yeah. Um, well, this is just from my experiences. I can't speak for everyone else, but like everything I mentioned earlier, I like to say, you don't have to give up everything for medicine. I know like people or like students who are like entering this path, they might think that, like they'll give up their whole life, their whole hobby to get to their end goal and to, apply medical school. I feel like that's kind of hard because when you enter medical school, you want to continue what makes you happy. You want to do things that makes you feel like you, especially when you're so stressed, especially when you have exams coming up. So you want like ways to de-stress and to um make you feel that happy. So you should find ways to, release stress such as like meditation or like running or gymming. Like find things that can help you like manage stress. That's a number one thing. Another thing is your hard work will pay off. It might not happen your first time around, but it's okay to reapply. I know a lot of medical students who applied the second time, and there's nothing wrong with that. If ultimately medicine is what you want to do in the future, and you think that, you know, um, that's what makes you happy in the future, then you should just go for it. Don't get discouraged applying twice. a lot of my friends applied twice, and it actually looks more favorably on your application than as a red flag. So if you're wondering about, oh yeah, what happens if I don't get in the first time? Um, that's yeah something to consider. And also apply broadly. I feel like it's so competitive these days that you never know like what they're looking for, and all it takes is one like yes. So something really cheesy, but I think on my desk I had this like it's like a picture frame, but it's like all it takes is one yes. And yeah, I had that on my desk for like the past 3 years. And yeah, just like that it was like pretty encouraging when you feel down about yourself.
Thank you for sharing all that advice, Feng Ming. I really feel like this doesn't just apply to medicine. I feel like your advice can apply broadly to whatever you're doing in life. I think it's really important to, number one, just believe in yourself, and also just to know that, down the road, all your hard work will pay off. So thank you for, number one, taking the time out of your busy schedule. Good luck with your final coming up. And number two, just for being vulnerable and for sharing your story, which I'm sure will help a lot of other students who are on the fence or maybe struggling to continue their journey of, you know, getting into medical school. So thanks so much for the time, and I really appreciate it.
No, yeah, thank you so much for reaching out to me. It was really fun, and I'm glad that I did this. Really nice catching up with you. I feel like this whole podcast was more about me than you. So like maybe next time we'll catch up and like talk about what you have been up to. But yeah, it's been super fun. I hope that other people like it too. And I look forward to the like upload when you post it online.
For sure. See you all in episode 11. Peace.